Welcome everyone to Junosuede Just Commentary. So we're gonna react to the American Revolution Oversimplified Part 1. Okay, American. I wanna learn about this one. Of course, I did learn about World War One, World War Two, and it's amazing. And the exposure to these videos have allowed me to appreciate more and more what I've got and what we've got. The freedom. This is something that is so rare back then. Freedom, and I really don't like the fact that, you know, in this modern days, leaders and groups should not try to oppress people to express themselves or to have freedom and right, because a lot of persons died for us to have our freedom and our rights, and I don't think it should be stripped away from us at all. This is just wow. Anyway, we're gonna react to this one. Thank you so very much for requesting. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, guys. If you want me to react to the video, leave a comment below. Thank you so very much. Let's go ahead. The American Revolution.
Holy smokes!
Hey.
For Columbus, that
Oh boy.
to address the King and Queen of Spain. What is wrong with you? Okay, so you know how we're looking for a new trade route, right? And the Earth is round, right? So I'm thinking we can just sail the other way around the planet, right? Yeah. So I set sail, right? And I reach India, right? Wrong. I did not reach India.
I wonder if
I did not.
Where did you reach?
No, all right. Get to the point.
Get to the point, bro.
Do you know there's a whole nother freaking continent out there? Okay, and do you think I should care about this? Why? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I forget to mention there's gold everywhere?
Huh?
Gold?
Oh boy. Oh my gosh.
Columbus landed in Central America in October 1492.
Oh, that's our area. That's a.
And by that I mean he went on a huge theft and murder spree. He stole gold, jewelry, people, and a hammock. And then he returned to show off all of his riches, including a few previously undiscovered items such as tobacco, the pineapple, turkeys, and a hammock. Now,
that's from the Caribbean. That's where I'm looking.
Columbus didn't discover America. The Vikings did. And you'd be partially right. In the 11th century, Leif Erikson was the first European to land in America. But hey,
great, of course. Yes, we're talking about Columbus.
Time of his life. Hammock. Suddenly, the race was on to explore and conquer the New World. After a couple centuries of warring with the natives and each other, the European powers had claimed quite a lot of land, including this area, which both the English and the French claimed as theirs. One day, the French said, "I'm going to build some forts along here." And the English were like, "Could you not?" And the French said, "Sorry, but no, I could not." And they went ahead and built their forts, which pissed off the English. So they sent an up-and-coming British lieutenant colonel by the name of George Washington with a combined force of British troops and Native Americans. After a short battle, the French commander said, all right, we surrender. Okay, boys, pack it up. They're surrendering. Oh, sorry. Was I not meant to split his head open with the tomahawk? Don't worry. It's not like this will start a 7-year-long major global conflict. Oh boy. What happened next was a 7-year-long major global conflict. Again! At the peace negotiations, Spain gave up Florida, while France gave up all of its territories in North America. I didn't know that. The came at a cost. A £60 million cost. They were now broke, in a lot of debt, and had to come up with some way to repay it. So they went to the colonies and said, okay, listen up. So a huge part of the war was spent protecting you from the French, and now we have no money because of it. So... Can you pay us back? I'm not sure what you're saying here. Okay, so we spent a lot of money protecting you from the French, right? Right. And now we're broke. And? That certainly is a pickle. Listen to me. We spent all of our money protecting you, and now we need money. Wow. Can you please pay us back some money? Oh, but a letter. No. Oh boy. What? Okay, we're just going to go ahead and tax you. Oh boy. In 1764, Britain introduced the Sugar Act, forcing the colonists to import sugar and molasses exclusively from the British and to pay duties on them. Then a year later, they introduced the extremely controversial Stamp Act, and it worked a little something like this. Hello, shopkeep. Hello, Mr. Bungleberry. Here's the deed for your new shack. Stamp. That'll be 3 pence, please. Oh boy. What was that? It's the new tax. I get a stamp on any paper or documentation I make, and you have to pay for it. Would you like to see this pamphlet that explains everything? No. Please. Okay. No! Stamp. 2 pence, please. This is awful. You know what? Just give me a deck of cards so I can go gamble. They're gonna... Okay. Stamp. No. Don't do it. Stamp. Damn. Obviously, the colonists were like, hey, my dudes, this new tax legislation right here, this is BS. Until now, they had enjoyed relative freedom to rule themselves, and now suddenly Britain was asserting its control. They were especially unhappy because they didn't have any representatives in the parliament that was levying taxes on them. So they protested. Orators gave fiery speeches. British goods were boycotted, and anyone loyal to the British found themselves increasingly harassed. The whole thing actually began to take quite a toll on British business, and after just a couple years, the British were forced to repeal the Stamp Act. I would think so. We still desperately need money. What should we do? We could try taxing the colonies. Great idea. Oh, wait, boy. Didn't we literally just try that and it failed miserably? Man, look at me. I look fabulous. Have you ever seen such a handsome boy? Pride. No siree, Georgie. No way. You're the handsomest, smartest, most popular king that ever lived, and everybody likes you. You're doing such a good job. Your Majesty? Oh, you're still here. Duh. Get the hell out. So in 1766, the British made a declaration saying, we can do what we want because we're in charge, and you can all go suck it. Then they levied a whole bunch of new taxes on the Americans via import duties. Glass? There's a tax for that.
Wow.
Right? There's a tax for that. Paper, tea.
So they didn't have nothing then.
There's a tax for that.
They didn't have
And
nothing in the
Americans
American
boycotted British goods, British
continent.
business felt the pinch, and the British had to back down. All right, this is ridiculous. They're my colonies, and I have to be able to assert my control. Repeal all the new taxes except for the one on tea. Also send 1,000 troops to Boston to take control. Oh, and make the colonists pay for them.
Oh
and as
boy.
British troops arrived, the tension in Boston was palpable. You could cut it with a knife, and it was all about to come to a head. On March 5th, a band of local patriots began heckling a British guard at the customs house. More and more Americans joined in the heckling.
Oh, don't tell me they're gonna.
Turned up in support of their comrade. Snowballs were thrown at the British. The snowballs turned to rocks,
Oh!
the rocks to oyster shells. The soldiers, outnumbered, panicked. One thing leads to another.
Oh,
and
gosh.
you can see where this is going.
Oh,
5
yo.
civilians were killed. The Patriot press throughout the colonies declared the Boston Massacre an unwarranted crime committed against the people of Boston by the cruel British, and the anger continued to
Oh,
grow.
boy.
A British revenue schooner that ran aground in Rhode Island was burned by the locals. When it came to light that the governor of Massachusetts supported the suppression
Oh,
of the
shoot.
colonists, his house was burned by the locals. And next, the colonists would set their sights on the remaining tax on tea. On December 16th,
Oh my gosh.
1773, a band of patriots known as the Sons of Liberty disguised themselves as Native Americans, marched down to Boston Harbor, boarded a British merchant ship loaded with tea, and in front of thousands of spectators, threw nearly 10,000 pounds worth of tea overboard.
Oh my
British
gosh.
were disgusted, and they
Not the
pillaged
tea.
Massachusetts with a vengeance. They dissolved its General Assembly, revoked their charter, and sent 3,000 more troops to occupy the city,
Whoa.
meaning Boston and Massachusetts were now essentially under the direct rule of
Really?
and oh boy, were the people pissed. The other colonies saw what was happening and worried they might be next. So they called a brain trust to decide what to do.
Brain
56
trust.
delegates from 12 colonies gathered and met in Philadelphia at the First Continental Congress, and the roll call read like a who's who of America's finest thinkers. I'm talking lawyers extraordinary
Wow.
Johnny A. and Johnny J., experienced military commander George
Wow.
Washington, businessman and future alcoholic beverage Samuel Adams, fiery orator Patty H.
Wow.
Married a rich
That
man,
is big
Jake
names, yo.
And while they weren't present at the first Congress, soon names like James Madison, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and much later Alexander Hamilton would
Yeah,
all
these are
be
names I
present
heard
at
of
the
before.
Congress. The question now, though, was what to do about the British. After much bitter debate and disagreement, they eventually agreed on an amazing solution. They would
Wow,
simply
that's
ask
it?
the British to stop. Can you stop? No, it didn't work. Okay, they told the
What's wrong with
local
people?
militias to start arming and be ready at a minute's notice. And across the colonies, these Minutemen stood ready for the beginning of the American Revolutionary War.
Whoa.
Having your colonies in open rebellion is one thing.
Huh.
Once they start arming themselves, that's when it really hits the fan. So British General Thomas Gage ordered 700 troops from Boston out into the rebel-controlled Massachusetts countryside to destroy
Even
stores of
war
arms and
in
ammunition
the
held by
actual
the rebels in
continent of the
Concord.
US?
The British set out in the middle of the night. Patriots, including Paul Revere, rode ahead to warn that the British were coming, giving the rebels
The
time to
British are
prepare.
coming, the
They
British
set
are
up in
coming.
Lexington as the sun began to rise. They faced off against each other.
Oh,
And in the confusion,
boy.
Somebody shot first. The
Oh.
shot heard around the world marked the beginning of the American War of Independence. The rebels were outnumbered and had to fall back to
Wow.
Concord as the British lit up to search for rebel supplies. However, more and more patriot rebels kept showing up, and this time it was the British who were outnumbered as more fighting kicked off in Concord. The most professional
I never
army
knew
was
that.
forced to flee back to Boston at the hands of local, poorly trained militiamen, and all along
Oh,
the British route back
gosh.
to Boston, patriot rebels continued to gather and open fire on the retreating British. When the British reached Boston, the rebel militias surrounded them. Boston and the British were now under siege as small land and naval skirmishes continued around the city. And the British would suffer another embarrassing blow, this time in upstate New York. Colonel
Really?
Donald concocted a plan to take the
What?
British stronghold Fort Ticonderoga, which held a large amount of guns and ammunition. He set off towards the fort alone, hoping to recruit
Alone?
men along the way, when he came across the Green Mountain Boys, led by Ethan Allen, who, as it turned out, had the exact same plan he did. So they decided to work together.
Wow.
But I'm in charge. No, I'm in charge.
Oh boy.
No, I'm in
Pride
charge.
again.
No, I'm
Pride.
in charge.
Pride.
No, I'm
Pride.
in charge.
Pride.
No, I'm in charge. No, I'm in charge. This went on for some time, until the Green Mountain Boys threatened to go home, and Arnold had to concede. The group entered the fort at night while the Redcoats were asleep, and they caught them completely by surprise, taking the fort and all of its munitions with almost no resistance.
Wow.
Wow, great job, Ethan. Very impressive. By
Huh.
the way, what happened to that other guy we sent to take the fort?
Ah,
Benedict
oh boy.
Arnold. Never heard of him.
Oh boy.
Ouch.
Man.
What the fuck? Nobody knew what was going on. The colonies were in open rebellion, and for now, they even seemed to be winning. So King George fired General Gage, replaced him with General William Howe, and
Wow.
ordered the rebellion to be put down immediately. Okay, the British are definitely going to retaliate for all of this, so we should probably put together a proper army.
Yeah.
First, we need to pick a commander-in-chief,
Oh,
and
boy.
I think we can all agree that that job should go to the
Me?
man, the myth, the legend, George Washington.
Oh, I thought it was gonna say
Friends,
me.
I am humbled and honored that you would consider me for such an important role. I did not expect for this. All right, you've been showing up in a military uniform every day for the last 10 months. We all know you wanted this, so cut the crap, George. Dude. So cool. So Washington began his journey up to Boston to take command of the newly established Continental Army. Just as the British
Oh my god, this guy is amazing. OverSimplified.
to take the high ground on Bunker Hill. But spies warned the Continentals of the British plans, so they fortified Bunker Hill and set up defensive positions on nearby Breed's Hill. The day of the battle came, and as the British advanced,
my birthday, June 17th. Well, not that year, obviously. I'm not a vampire. But June 17th is my actual date.
3 hours until the Continentals finally ran out of ammunition and had to retreat, allowing the British to take the hill. While technically a British victory, they suffered nearly 1,000 casualties to the Continentals' 400. The colonists showed the British that this wasn't just a rebellion, it was war, and they were ready for it. But one thing they weren't sure about was why they were fighting. Well, some radicals were starting to throw around the I word. Most hoped to eventually repair
independence,
with
freedom.
So they sent a letter to King George saying, "Hey man, looks like things aren't going your way. Remove the taxes and let's be friends."
Oh boy.
I'm gonna kick your ass. Send that to the colonies. Your Majesty,
oh boy.
Your handwriting is terrible. Are you sure? Just do it. What does it say? He's gonna lick my...
Oh my god.
Gross. So for the remainder of the year, small engagements continued to occur around the colony. The British burned down the
Lincoln kicks so close.
in North Virginia as revenge for earlier anti-British incidents. These actions played right into the hands of patriot propaganda. Overseas, the British were seen as brutes, and the French and Spanish would soon begin sending supplies to the rebel cause. During this time, there was also minor fighting going on between patriot and loyalist militias in the southern colonies. Benedict Arnold was still on a mission to win some personal glory for himself, so he headed up an attempt to invade Canada in a two-pronged attack. The Continentals managed to capture some British forts and the city of Montreal, but a harsh snowstorm with some smallpox on the side saw them defeated and pushed back to Quebec City, and they were forced to retreat all the way to Fort Ticonderoga. Speaking of which, remember all those guns and ammunition? Well, this guy's got a plan for what to do with them. He uses oxen to drag 120,000 pounds of artillery for 2 months through the harsh winter, 300 miles all the way to Washington and his Continental Army surrounding Boston. Boom. Washington's got himself some big guns, which is fortunate because up until now his army had been suffering through the cold winter, not knowing when the siege would end. Now they could move. Washington launched a full assault on the city, but his junior officers felt the British were too fortified, and to his credit, Washington was great at hearing and taking on board the ideas of others.
Really?
Instead, the Continentals worked through the night, setting the guns up on Dorchester Heights, overlooking the city, and when dawn broke and the British saw the guns, they knew they were toast. Their positions were completely exposed. It was checkmate. They had no choice but to abandon the city. 120 ships carried 9,000 redcoats and 2,000 loyalists awaiting unknown fate, and Washington had his first victory of the war. Washington then moved his army to New York, knowing that when the British returned, they would probably land there. In the meantime, a friendly-looking old man by the name of Thomas Paine had written and published a pamphlet called Common Sense. He advocated for total independence from Britain. It spread across the colonies like wildfire, and to this day remains the best-selling title in America. It was read aloud in taverns and meeting halls, and brought the idea of independence into the mainstream. Congress began to seriously consider the idea. Thomas Jefferson was selected to write up an official Declaration of Independence, and he went hard, writing that all men are created equal, with certain inalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Awesome. Of course, Jefferson had over 100 slaves, but we don't have to talk about it. On the 2nd of July, Congress voted unanimously in favor of independence, and John Adams declared that the 2nd of July would go down as the most remembered day in American history. Then a couple days later, independence actually came into effect. The United States of America was born. There was no turning back now. The Americans tore down a statue of King George in New York and melted him down into 42,000 musket balls. To the British, it was treason, and if the king had his way, Washington and all of Congress would be hung. Speaking of the British, guess who's back? The king sent an intimidating force of 130 warships and 25,000 men to New York. Washington knew that taking on the most powerful military in the world wouldn't be easy. The British set up camp on Staten Island as the Americans dug into defensive positions around Brooklyn Heights, waiting for an attack to come. But the British just waited, wearing down their opponent's nerve while building their own strength. At one point, they launched a big scary artillery barrage and then said, you know, if I was you right now, I'd probably sue for peace. But Washington told them to shove it. The Americans kept holding out for what was coming, and when they finally hit, they hit hard. 15,000 British troops approached the American position, and the two sides fired on each other in massive rows. But what the Americans didn't realize was they were only fighting a decoy. The main British force was going around to flank the Americans from behind, and when they arrived, they inflicted heavy casualties. The Americans panicked and retreated back to Brooklyn Heights, where they then found themselves trapped between the British army and the river. It looked as though the war was already lost, but luckily, instead of attacking, the British decided to dig in for a siege, and then a thick fog set in, allowing Washington's army to escape across the river unimpeded. The British continued to chase and engage the Americans up Manhattan, and the Americans suffered defeat after defeat after defeat. It was a disaster. Washington's leadership was called into question, as thousands of American POWs were left to rot as traitors. Washington's army fled through New Jersey all the way down to Pennsylvania.
That is a lot. That is a lot of history in this world.
Another day.
Part 2, yeah, I'm going to watch part 2, of course. It's a Sunday morning. It's a good time to watch all of this video which were requested about the World War, of course. Thank you so very much, guys, for requesting it. I'm gonna react to part 2 now. Of course, it was very interesting learning all of these things. I never knew that there was a war between Britain and the Americans to conquer, you know, this territories in America. I never knew that. And it's interesting learning how the July 4th independence came about. I tell you, our new generation have a lot to appreciate, and I think we should not take these things for granted. A lot of lives were lost so that we could have independence and freedom. Okay, so we really should appreciate these things and actually celebrate these holidays and these independence events, because our forefathers, generation before us, hundreds maybe, but like generations before us really fought and fight and died for us to have this freedom we've got right now. Thank you guys for requesting. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, guys. If you want me to react to a video, leave a comment below. Thank you so very much. Bye, guys.